Alrighty, since I just got home from my last checkup, I am sending my analysis now. Okay, so starting off with GJ. GJ is yet once again one of the popular votes for the pairs. Excuse me. And because it was the majority of you guys that wanted this, so here we are. Okay, I have my sell zone up top and engulfing sell meets and engulfing sell. Then I have my buy zone down here, which was since last week that I told you that I'm monitoring over here for a buy. So you see that when the price came back in and it failed to break below, I decided to tap, leave a wick, and then fly up. Okay, but it has yet to test the key level. Excuse me. So again, my sell zone, my buy zone. Current price is very close to the sell zone. Okay, so what can GJ do? Now, mind you, today we do have a high impact news on USD pair, I believe. So if you want to make sure what time is it according to your time zone, go ahead and check forexfactory.com. All right, so we do have a high impact news on USD pair in approximately 3 hours, so just beware of that. And because GJ is quite a volatile pair, I suggest you wait for the US session first and after the news is released to see where it wants to play. But if you have a higher risk appetite, then just monitor any setups that you can see over here for when the price comes in. Then potentially, if it closes as a sell, then you can sell down in the smaller time frame after the confirmation. Okay, so what can GJ do? Let's look at the potentials of movements that GJ can do. GJ, if it decides to tap into our sell zone and the key level for our sell zone, then potentially we can catch a sell back down if H4 does not close above my sell zone, right? But if it decides to close above, then potentially it might want to test a high area. And like I always say, after breaking, it can shoot up in one go, especially if it has a high volume coming in and if it's a volatile pair. So GJ is a very good example of that when after it breaks a zone, usually it likes to just go or chase the next zone when the volume is high enough, okay? But in the market, if the volume is not high enough, there's a potential after breaking that it could retrace back into the key level for the opposite direction. So if H4 decides to break above, then you just wait for the pullback into the key level and look for a buy instead. Vice versa, if it decides to drop down into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially we can catch a buy back up. But if it breaks down below, then it might want to test a lower area. So you can wait and monitor or find the next zones or wait for the key level for the opposite direction. Okay? After H4 reaching our zones, switch down into M5 or M15 and you monitor these time frames for a setup or confirmation. Okay, these are for your entry. So after forming that particular setup, it could be engulfing meets engulfing or engulfing fail meets engulfing or the ABCs. Once it has formed that, make sure it has formed that completely before you press it. And I would suggest you monitor M15 first. If you cannot find anything in M15, that is when you switch to M5 to find a setup. Okay? Excuse me. So that is for GJ. Next, GU. One of the pairs that I also do very much love. Since we do have a high impact news on USD, I have decided to give you 3 zones, right? In cases it does decide to break our zone over here, then we have a sell zone up top also. But if it decides to break down here, then we will just wait for a zone around here. So you can mark that also for you to monitor. But for me, I'm going to monitor over here for a very good sell, a very good buy, and I'm going to see how it reacts in this zone for the next few hours. Because if it fails to break this zone, and I can see it in the smaller time frame also that there are multiple engulfing sells or sell setups, or I can see a lot of selling pressure in different time frames, showing that it is really hard for it to break my sell zone up here, then I will just find a sell for a sell back down, and then I will see if it's going to break my zone over here, because if it doesn't, then I will just set break even and let it run. But if it decides to drop and I couldn't get any confirmations in the sell for my sell zone, I'll wait for a buy over here if it decides to drop down into this zone, right? But if there are a lot of buyer pressures, if there is a lot of buying pressure from the buyers, that's the word, then either I wait for H4 to break, pull back, enter from a buy here, or I will wait for a sell over here. Okay, because all of these zones and all the key levels actually can go on both directions. A buy or a sell, but it is up to you to create rules for yourself and for your trading account. Okay, so current price is over here. Sorry, I've been stuttering a lot because my throat, excuse me, and it's just brain fog. So current price, if it respects our current sell zone, then potentially we can catch a sell back down. If it breaks above, and like I said, we have a sell zone up top, that we can wait for it. Okay, vice versa, if it drops into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially we can catch a buy back up. But if it breaks down below, then I might want to test a lower area. Okay, now again, after entering, or any trades actually, please make sure you put an SL of 40 pips from your entry. Okay, so after you have entered, look at the price. That's after the setup forming its price, forming its setup, then you count 40 pips from that price, and that will be your SL. Okay, 40 pips is quite a not too tight, not too loose SL, and it's quite really good and friendly for beginners especially. Okay, these are the two pairs. For the third pair, I will be sending it in Engulfing Scholars, so stay tuned.